Soul Streaming Entry 12. You can't heal what you don't want to feel. A living, breathing audio and written experience by Sim. I love that I don't have to think about what this entry is supposed to be. I don't have to plan it, map it, or force it into something meaningful. I get to write from where I am, from what I'm actually moving through. Right now, I'm allowing myself to feel everything as it comes, trusting that what's felt can finally move and heal, not bypass them, not dress them up as gratitude too quickly, not shame myself for having them at all, just letting them exist long enough to tell me what they're here for and what's needed from me. We hear the phrase all the time, you have to feel it to heal it. But I don't think we often pause to ask why feeling feels so threatening in the first place. What do we think is going to happen if we actually go there? If we sit with what's underneath instead of skimming the surface? Are we afraid we'll fall apart? That it will be too much? Or that once we open that door, we won't know how to close it again? And yet, don't we want to know how we actually feel? Don't we want to be in relationship with our emotions instead of being controlled by the ones we've never let ourselves touch? Avoiding feelings doesn't make them disappear. It just leaves them operating quietly in the background, shaping our reactions without our consent. Stillness and self attunement. As I've been sitting with myself today, really allowing the feelings to move instead of rushing past them, I became aware of a quiet sense of alignment. Not something dramatic, not something that pulled me out of myself, just a subtle recognition that comes when I stay present long enough to hear my own inner world. It felt grounding, confirming, like something settling into place rather than asking to be explained. I didn't feel the need to question it or analyze it. I just felt grateful. Grateful for staying still. Grateful for trusting what I don't need to name in order for it to be real. And it made me realize how unfamiliar this kind of stillness and self attunement has been for so many before me. I also found myself thinking about my lineage, about how feeling wasn't something that was modeled from my parents and ancestors. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how. I can see now how much was pushed aside simply to keep going. And I feel grateful that I wanted to learn differently, that I wanted to know how to sit with myself, how to name what's moving through me, how to feel without collapsing or avoiding. That choice feels like another quiet way cycles in, not through confrontation, but through awareness. My lineage and what was never modeled. I've also been reflecting on something I've noticed across almost every family dynamic on this planet. Every lineage has a black sheep, every single one. That's usually the role we're known for. The one who feels different, the one who doesn't quite fit the mold, the one who senses what others avoid. And culturally, societally, even casually, the term black sheep has been given a negative meaning. It's been used to describe the troublemaker, the odd one out, the overly sensitive one, the one who doesn't follow the rules or reflect the family image the way they are expected to. Being the black sheep often comes with being misunderstood, unseen, labeled dramatic, too sensitive, difficult, or too much. And for a long time, that label carried weight for me. It felt like invisibility, like constantly being too sensitive in rooms where numbness was normalized, like feeling deeply in environments that rewarded suppression. But what I've come to understand is that sensitivity was never the flaw, it was the assignment. I wasn't broken for feeling more, I was equipped. I took what once made me feel exposed and chose to see it as what it actually is: clear sentience, emotional intelligence, a nervous system tuned to honoring my truth. The black sheep role. Every lineage needs that hypersensitive individual, not as a punishment, but as a balancing force. We are the ones who feel what hasn't been felt for decades. We carry awareness into places where avoidance has lived too long. We don't just observe patterns. Shit, we feel them in our bodies. And that's how cycles actually end. Not through ignoring, not through rejection, but through embodiment, through choosing to feel instead of repeating what's familiar. Being the black sheep isn't about separating from family. It's about separating from numbness. It's about leaning less into what we see and more into what and how we feel. And that's where real change begins. Why feeling feels threatening. I think one of the reasons feeling our feelings can feel so threatening is because it asks us to release identities we've learned to survive through. There's a comfort that can form around emotions that don't actually serve us, especially when those emotions allow us to stay in victimhood. When they give us somewhere to place blame, when they help us deflect what's happening inside by focusing on what others have done or failed to do. And I don't say that with judgment, I say it with understanding. Those emotional patterns once kept us safe. They gave us structure in times we didn't know how to hold ourselves. Another layer I've noticed is how little we've been taught to trust our own emotional truth. For a long time, many of us were told how we should feel before we ever had the chance to discover how we actually felt. Sometimes it was spoken directly, sometimes it was modeled through behavior, and often it was shaped by other people's unhealed histories rather than our own inner reality. Over time, that conditioned us to question our emotions, to second guess our instincts, and to wonder if what we're feeling is accurate, valid, or allowed. And when doubt enters, distraction usually follows. Not because we're weak, but because distraction is encouraged. It keeps us busy. It keeps us stimulated. It keeps us from sitting long enough to hear what's asking to be felt. But every distraction also reinforces the same programs we came here to evolve from. The same cycles of avoidance, suppression, and emotional outsourcing. Feeling requires stillness, and stillness requires trust. Trust that we can sit with ourselves without collapsing. Trust that we can witness what's inside without abandoning ourselves again. How I sit with my feelings. This is where real healing adds something different of us. Not more effort, not more fixing, but a willingness to stay present long enough to see ourselves clearly. To feel without blaming. To feel without performing. To feel without needing someone else to validate the experience. That's not easy work, but it's honest work. And it's how we begin to remember that we were always capable of holding ourselves. What I've learned about healing, what I feel, is that it doesn't require intensity or force. It asks for stillness and quiet, for the outside noise to fall away so I can finally hear myself. Sitting with my hand on my heart, taking a deep breath, cleansing breath that feels like it reaches somewhere beneath my thoughts. And then simply asking, how are we feeling today? Can we name an emotion? Not to fix it, not to analyze it, just to acknowledge it. Sometimes what comes up surprises me. Sometimes it opens up memories, triggers, or old pain. And sometimes nothing dramatic happens at all. Sometimes the feeling just wants attention, to be seen, to be acknowledged without being rushed away. I've learned that not every emotion wants something from me in the moment. Trust builds first, clarity comes later. Stillness has become my language. Sitting outside in nature, letting the wind, the quiet, or even distant sounds hold space while I listen inward. Paying attention to what I consume, the stories I hear, the movies or series I watch, the conversations I witness. Sometimes emotions surface through reflection, through resonance, through seeing pieces of myself mirrored back through someone else's experience. And when they do, I give them somewhere to go. I journal them, I record them, I color them into existence. Shades and tones express what words I have yet to hold. I choose colors that speak to the parts of me I'm working to heal, trusting my body knows where the energy wants to move. There are endless ways to meet ourselves that don't require much effort, money, or perfection. They just ask for devotion, a willingness to show up consistently, to become reliable to ourselves, to trust that when a feeling comes online, whether familiar or new, we can sit with it, we can feel it, we can let it pass through without abandoning ourselves or handing it off to distraction. That's how commitment to self begins, not through grand gestures, but through quiet moments of presence that slowly but steadily changes everything. And I think there's another layer we don't talk about enough. Sometimes the resistance to feeling isn't conscious at all. Sometimes it's quieter, more subtle, a fear of what we might discover about ourselves if we slow down long enough to feel. A fear of feeling like we failed somewhere, like we're falling short of who we were supposed to be, like we don't have it together the way we thought we did. Sometimes it's the fear of realizing we've been performing strength instead of living truth, or not knowing where to begin once we do open that door, or questioning whether what we're feeling is even real, whether we can trust it, hell, whether we can trust ourselves. And so we hesitate, we stall, we avoid, not because we're incapable, but because somewhere along the way, we learned that feeling meant something had gone wrong. Belief without answers. I think it's important to say this out loud, for myself and for anyone who reads this. You are not doing anything wrong just because doubt shows up. You are not failing faith because you have unanswered questions. You are not off path because impatience visits. Doubt doesn't cancel belief. It doesn't erase devotion. It doesn't undo everything you've already committed to. It's just information moving through a nervous system that's been asked to trust without seeing the full picture yet. I keep asking myself this simple question. Can belief be enough? Can I let belief stand on its own without demanding clarity to back it up? Without needing proof, timelines, or guarantees? Because I've realized that everything that comes after belief can be dressed up as something helpful while still being an illusion. Even good ideas, even logical next steps, even things that look supportive on the surface can quietly become detours if they pull me out of my body and away from what I already know. And I'm tired of fucking detours. I'm not angry about it. I'm not bitter. I'm just honest. I'm tired of second guessing my own inner knowing because my mind wants reassurance. I'm tired of thinking I need to solve the future in order to be faithful in the present. I'm learning that discernment isn't about finding the right answer. Sometimes it's about staying with what's true long enough for the noise to fall away on its own. Letting belief be enough. What I'm realizing, especially today, is that healing isn't something I do by effort. It happens when I let myself feel without making meaning out of it too fast. When I stop treating emotions like problems to fix and start treating them like messengers that need space. Naming how I feel has become a form of release, a form of meditation, a way of staying in relationship with myself instead of abandoning myself on days when I don't feel high, clear, or inspired. I don't have more answers today than I did yesterday. I still don't know the how or the when. I still don't have a clear picture of what's next, but I'm here. I'm still choosing the path. I'm still believing even when I feel tired, frustrated, and human. And for now, that has to be enough. Belief doesn't need to be loud to be real. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's shaky. Sometimes it's just a soft yes whispered underneath all the questions. And today, I'm letting that be enough. My legacy thread. This is the work I want to be remembered for. Not having all the answers, not always getting it right, but being willing to sit with myself long enough to feel what others were taught to avoid. I'm learning that healing doesn't come from rushing forward or proving strength. It comes from slowing down and staying present with what's real, from choosing to feel instead of perform, from trusting that my body, my emotions, and my inner knowing are not obstacles to my path, but the very things guiding me forward. If this entry lives beyond me, I hope it reminds whoever reads it that cycles don't always end with loud declarations. Sometimes they end quietly, in moments of stillness where someone finally chooses to listen. A whisper for you. If you don't know where to start, begin by making intentional time to sit with yourself and notice what you're feeling without trying to change it. You are not doing anything wrong just because doubt shows up. You are not failing faith because you have unanswered questions. You are not off path because impatience visits. Doubt doesn't cancel belief. It doesn't erase devotion. It's simply information moving through a body that's learning how to trust itself again. You don't need clarity today. You don't need to have it all figured out. Belief can be enough for now, and you are allowed to feel without making it mean something is wrong. Here are your journal prompts for this week's entry. You don't have to answer all of these. Let one meet you where you are. Number one, what emotions have I been avoiding because I'm afraid of what they might say about me? Number two, where did I learn that feeling deeply meant something had gone wrong? Number three, what does stillness feel like in my body when I don't rush to feel it? Number four, in what ways have I confused doubt with failure or misalignment? Number five, how can I become more reliable to myself when an emotion comes online? Number six, what would it look like to let belief be enough for today without demanding answers? Thank you for witnessing this soul stream. Replay it or reread it whenever you need to come home to yourself. Until next time, stay soft, stay true, and keep streaming your soul your way. Love, Sim.